What is FAU going to look like in 2024? Tom Herman's excitement has kind of died down a little bit, but this is a team that has plenty of talent to make a run. They obviously survived their first year in the AAC. It was a 4-8 season, so not super great, but the top 10 returning players they have coming back should make things interesting this year. We're going to start on the defensive side of the ball. Jackson Ambush has an elite name for a defender, and he put together an impressive season. 89 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, and you're looking at a guy who could have an even bigger impact in 2024. Now, this defense was not a great defense by any means. They finished 58th in scoring, but there weren't too many other things that they did well at all. It was kind of in the middle or bad, but this is a group that has talent returning. I think one of the losses that they'll have to get over is losing Evan Anderson. But if you're able to figure out things up front and with the talent they have returning, I wouldn't be surprised if they do. Then you're looking at a team that's much improved. Now, obviously, the offensive side of the ball has its own issues it must figure out. But this defense and guys like Jackson Ambush could be set for a really fun year. Tom Herman obviously learned that he needs more talent and he needed to go to the transfer portal to get said talent. You just can't get the job done with Conference USA talent. You have to find ways to recruit players that can compete in a tougher conference. And a guy like Milan Tucker has the potential to be an explosive weapon for FAU. The former App State transfer comes in after averaging 23.8 yards per catch. Somehow he did not get in the end zone. That actually blows my mind that he can average nearly 24 yards. He can cover near a quarter of the field and not getting in the end zone once. But that should change. Again, Tom Herman, I trust what he's doing offensively. We've seen what he can do. We know that he can create explosive offenses. And having a weapon like Tucker, he's had guys like him before. You look at what he had at Houston. Obviously, you look at Texas. He's had talented players with speed to be explosive. And Tucker is just the latest in that long line of players and can be explosive for Tom Herman's team. Back to the defensive side of the ball, Day Hill could be a really good player for this defense. The safety comes in at 5'10", 190 pounds. A solid year last year where he picked off 2 passes, and this secondary has some work to do. Again, when you're having a season like last year, it's a transitional year. You don't really know what to expect from other teams, and teams don't really know what to expect from you. You obviously get a quick reality check if you're not up to the task. But I think that part of last year was this team trying to figure out how to play up to a level of competition that they weren't used to seeing. And part of that is facing some of the explosive offenses that are in the AAC, and now you know what to expect. I assume that Tom Herman and his staff know exactly what they need to do to fix the struggles from last year. Defending the pass is one of them. And Day Hill comes back after a solid season. And if they can take a step forward and defend the pass better, Hill's going to have a big year. We talked about the linebacker position before. Desmond Tisdale, I really am excited about what he can do alongside Jackson Ambush. This linebacker group will be one of the best in this conference, and Tisdale is just another player that can be disruptive. 5.5 tackles for loss last year, 2.5 sacks. Again, when you think about it from this perspective, you look at what this team did last year. Obviously, it wasn't great. Obviously, you'd like to see some things improve, but you also saw that this team struggled, had a valuable learning opportunity, and they still put together some impressive stats. It's not going to be the greatest, but you saw the potential. And again, if this group takes a step forward, the defense, the linebackers like Tisdale and Ambush, if they take a step forward, this is going to be a fun defense to watch. The offensive line will play a huge role in determining how successful this offense will be. And when you look at what this team did last year, it was not impressive offensively. And you need to find a way to get better. Federico Morangas is another player on this offense that knows what's at stake. He understands that this group needs to get better, and he's a veteran who will lead this team. Now, how good this offensive line can be remains to be seen. But when you look at what they did last year, there's really only room to go up. There's not much room to go backwards. This is a group that should improve. Tom Herman is a good offensive mind. And if you can find a way to get this offensive line to play better and get this offense as a whole to play better, then you're looking at a team that will be much tougher to beat in 2024 and in the AAC. Herman understands the transfer portal, which is why he brought in a number of talented players. Now, there are a handful of players that could have made it on this list, and we're going to talk about a bunch of them today, but you look at what Marlon Johnson did at Buffalo. Again, this is a Buffalo team that 2 years ago, really good in terms of throwing the football, but last year, not so much. So the fact that he had 40 catches for 494 yards and 4 touchdowns, if you go look at Buffalo stats, you'll see why that's impressive. Comes in at 6'4", 200 pounds. So you're looking at a guy who is a big frame for whoever wins the quarterback position to find downfield. And if he finds a way to take a step forward, we saw what he did in an offense that struggled to throw the ball. If this FAU offense can find a way to move the ball through the air efficiently, Marlon Johnson, I think, has a big role in that effort. Flipping back to that front seven, Marlon Bradley could be a guy that has a breakout season. Last year had 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, comes in at 6'4", 240 pounds, an explosive player around the edge. If he takes a step forward, it's going to be helpful for that passing attack. We talked about how the passing attack struggled last year. One way to help that, first, obviously, have a secondary that can play better. But if you can find a way to get your defensive ends, your edge players, outside linebackers to play better, a guy like Marlon Bradley, if he's able to do that, that helps your secondary a lot because you don't have to cover for as long. And Bradley is someone who I think can have a big year if he's able to put it all together. He'll be more of an impact player. He'll probably see the field a little bit more than he did last year. And the potential that he has is really exciting. Marshall lost a couple players to the transfer portal, and FAU was quick to snatch them up. Caleb Coombs is one of those guys. Now, when you look at his numbers, 7.9 yards per catch isn't exactly an explosive player, but he's a reliable one. He was a veteran for Marshall, and he knows how to pick up yards. He's going to be a reliable pass catcher. He's going to be someone that when you need to pick up yards, he's going to be the guy that gets you that first down. And that'll be really exciting to watch. You have a good complement of receivers on this team. You have people who can go deep. Marlon Johnson could be a deep threat. And then a guy like Caleb Coombs can really dominate underneath or just pick up the yards that you need. That's going to be really exciting to watch. And again, a lot of that falls on the quarterback. Everyone expects that quarterback to be Cam Fancher, to be honest. And it's easy to see why. When you look at what he did at Marshall, now obviously the ending to his tenure at Marshall was pretty disappointing from his perspective. I think when you look at what you expected from that fan base, I think that he did a lot of good things for Marshall. And obviously the inconsistent play didn't help, but I don't think that he deserved to be run out of that program like he did. And it's really disappointing, but at the same time, sometimes that just is what it is. And finding a new home probably was best for him, regardless of that situation. But when you're looking at what he's capable of bringing to the table, I really like what he brings to Tom Herman's system. He's kind of that lankier quarterback, not the biggest quarterback. He's a lefty, which is really fun to watch, but he kind of fits that. If you're looking for a frame, I'm not saying he's the same statistically, but you're looking at that Greg Ward from Houston body type. Kind of a little bit lankier guy, not the biggest guy, but he's going to be someone who can pick up yards with his legs, not a guy that looks to run, but he is going to be able to do that, make explosive plays, and then also hopefully improve as a passer. That's going to be the biggest thing for him. At times struggled with ball security through 11 interceptions last year. But again, if he takes a step forward and he finds a way to gel with Herman and this coaching staff, I really like where this team can go. One of the more interesting additions from the transfer portal was getting George Johnson III from UMass. This is someone who was a wide receiver last year, and he's listed as running back. So that will be an interesting transition. And at 6 feet and 185 pounds, he fits into that running back mold. I think that he has the body type to be able to be an efficient runner, but we'll see what he can do when he's finally in that position. Can he be a good rusher for a group that finished 110th in the country last year? If you find a way to run the football better, things are probably going to go well for FAU.